A second judge has now used a law that Mike Pence enacted in the state of Indiana to block anti-abortion legislation in the state. How delicious is that? Now, let me give you the details on what this is all about. Now, Indiana, much like other red states, is trying to effectively ban abortion. The state legislature there had passed an abortion ban past 10 weeks with very few exceptions. If you were raped, you might be able to get an abortion past 10 weeks. However, the second judge who has weighed in on this issue has decided to block it based on religious liberty, a religious liberty law that was again enacted by Mike Pence when he was the governor of Indiana. Well, what does this all mean? Well, let me give you the details. Judge Heather Welch ruled that the law, which prohibits abortion at 10 weeks of pregnancy with narrow exceptions, substantially burdens the religious exercise of 5 women as part of a lawsuit backed by the Indiana American Civil Liberties Union. So what is this law that Pence enacted back in 2015? Well, lawyers for the plaintiffs argued that the ban violates Indiana's Religious Freedom Restoration Act, a law Pence signed in 2015, barring the government from infringing on one's religious beliefs or practices, a highly controversial law that was heavily criticized for initially allowing businesses to discriminate against LGBTQ+ people. But remember, religious liberty goes both ways or all ways. I mean, the idea for a lot of Christian conservatives is that the law only applies to them, but it applies to all religious people in a country where the government shall not establish a religion, right? And so the lawsuit hinges on disputing that life begins at conception, arguing that this is not a belief held across all religions. For example, under Jewish law, a fetus attains the status of a living person only at birth, the lawsuit reads. Jewish law recognizes that abortions may occur and should occur as a religious matter under circumstances not allowed by the near total abortion ban or existing Indiana law. And by the way, the 5 plaintiffs, the 5 women involved are of many different religions. So one of them practices Judaism, one follows Islam, Unitarian Universalism, Episcopalianism, and paganism. Now, Welch sided with the plaintiffs in this case, which makes it so great, saying in her decision that undisputed evidence demonstrates, based on actual facts, that the plaintiffs are suffering injury and altering their behavior at the current time solely because of the state's new abortion law. So she blocked it. Again, the second judge to do so, she blocked it. Now, the Indiana Supreme Court is scheduled to hear oral arguments in the first case that was brought up to block this law. They're gonna hear that case in January, but ultimately this is likely gonna be heard by the United States Supreme Court eventually. And that's where I worry, considering their right-wing stance on abortion to begin with. But right now, this is a good, maybe temporary victory.
Yeah, look, I'm sure they'll find a way, but right now, I'm not sure how the Supreme Court avoids a loss on this one for the right wing. Because on either side, they've got a problem. They're gonna have to lose one of the 2 provisions if they're going to be at all logically consistent. So the Supreme Court might, at the end of the day, just go, you know what, we're going Trump-like, screw logic. We're just gonna give the right wing wins on both of them, even though it doesn't make any sense. But that's why this is a genius case. So it's saying, hey, if you want the religious freedom, well, I got religious freedom to have an abortion if I want. That's indisputable. That's what those religions actually believe. Look, sometimes like folks form a group like a satanic club just to troll the right wing or the fundamentalists, etc. So there's some of that, and maybe a little bit on the edges of this, but overall, it's not that at all. It's Judaism is a massive religion in the world, obviously, right? Can't argue that it isn't. And they're saying, no, this is my actual religious principles that I'm allowed to have an abortion. And what do you have to say about it, right? So either that law stands and then abortion is legal, or abortion is illegal and that law falls. Now that is the more likely scenario. So I think this is more will do more to protect us from fundamentalist religion than it will to enshrine abortion rights. So it's being framed as an abortion rights story, but I don't think we're gonna win on abortion. I think we're gonna win on knocking down that Indiana law that says, oh yeah, on religious grounds, I could just ignore anything, any law passed by the legislature. Again, as Anna pointed out, they thought it was gonna be get out of jail free card for Christian fundamentalists.
Right.
But now when other religions use it, you realize it's untenable.
So we'll see how it plays out, but for now, I just love the twist here for Mike Pence, right? That the law he enacted actually ended up hurting his cause in denying women their reproductive rights. So again, we'll keep an eye on the story. I think it's fascinating.